is foul and foul is fair. Hover through the fog and filthy
Hi there folks, the members of the Sex Workers group are doing videos on how we got into the sex industry, so this is my response video. I got into the industry back in the 90s basically because I needed the money. I come from a pretty marginalized background and I didn't have as many opportunities as other people do. I don't want to get into that too much in this video, but perhaps I will talk about some of those experiences at a later date. I was only in the industry for a few months at that point, but I felt pretty shitty about it because of the stigma attached to it, although after a while I started to secretly enjoy it. But I left the industry because I had a good job offer in social work. The project that I was involved in was funded for only a year, so after that time was up I had to find other employment. I tried working in straight jobs, but after being sexually assaulted and harassed a few times in these types of environments where I was getting paid a shitty wage, I decided to get back into sex work. I was very happy as a sex worker this time around. I was safe because I was in an environment that I had more control over, as opposed to a place like a store, and I made good money, and I had time to do other things that I enjoyed and cared about. During this time I was heavily involved in sex workers' rights activism. I was a peer worker at a sex worker outreach organization. I retired from the sex industry in late 2006. That is, I did retire. I was not rescued and I'm not recovering because I moved to a smaller city where everyone pretty much knows everyone else. So I had to choose living in a place that I would be happier and closer to family, or continuing in sex work. If I could get away with being in the industry here, I most certainly would still be a sex worker. I've always wanted to have a farm where I could live off the land and be closer to wildlife. And while I've spent these last few years deciding what it is I want to do with my life, I have discovered that I have a talent for farming, and that is what I'm working on becoming now. Trading in a corset and stockings to a straw hat and pitchfork is quite a leap, but I have seen parallels to both the agricultural and sex industry. Both sex workers and farmers are undervalued in our society and are sometimes exploited, albeit in different ways, but it seems that people who say that they want to get into sex work or farming are sneered at. One of the differences is that sex workers often make pretty good money, while small farmers often do not. Oh, and it seems that everyone wants to save sex workers, but it doesn't seem like people give two shits about farmers. Something that I think has even more in common with sex work is marriage. This is a comparison I first saw made by Emma Goldman in a Mother Earth article. She was definitely onto something. Historically, marriage was a financial contract between two parties, and sometimes still is. Historically, marriage was exploitive to women, and sometimes still is. But we didn't abolish marriage, because in a civilized society we understand that people should have the right to make choices for themselves. Instead, we made laws to protect women from marital violence and rape, and have educated the public against spousal abuse. Why should sex work be any different? And when you think about it, it is easier for most people to get out of sex work than it is for a marriage. So for me personally, I see sex work as a human rights issue, a feminist issue, and a labor issue. Sex workers should have safe working conditions, control over the industry, and assistance should be provided for those who are financially coerced into the industry. Oh, and just a little message for the anti-sex worker feminists here on YouTube. I was not exploited in sex work, and it saved me from feeling exploited in slave wage jobs. It made my quality of life better. Me saying this does not make me a liar, and just because I don't goose step to your tune doesn't make me a traitor. That is all. Thanks for watching. Slancha.